before. I think that next year is going to be a tremendous success. I feel that if the Democrats get in, we are literally going to end up in a recession/depression, the likes of which you've never seen.
But the defund the police idea, I cannot for the life of me grasp.
How you mentioned it.
It's for real.
Now to the race for the White House, and after decades of very publicly flirting with the idea, billionaire Donald Trump says he really is running for president this time around.
Donald Trump is running for president.
This phrase is not from any movie I, nor my colleagues, can remember.
Do your own research. Don't take my word for it. Look it up yourself, and you will find the truth behind what Joe Biden has not done for our community and the truth as to what Donald Trump has done for our community.
We're talking about basement Biden, right? What is his agenda? Has he really even told us what his agenda is?
Remember, this Congress started off with the Democrats saying we should abolish ICE. It then moved to we should abolish the entire Department of Homeland Security.
We have to go to the polls on November 3rd, and the rest, you know what to do. You know what to do. We are one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. We will make America great again.
Welcome to Team Trump Online.
Wednesday just got better because the ladies are live discussing the hottest topics of the week with you tonight.
And we will make America great again.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to The Right View. I'm Lara Trump, Senior Advisor to President Trump's re-election campaign. We have another great show for you tonight. Joining me, as always, is Kimberly Guilfoyle, National Chair of Trump Victory, Mercedes Schlapp, Senior Advisor for Strategic Communications, and Katrina Pierson, Senior Advisor to the Trump campaign. Please be sure to like and share this broadcast with all your friends. Well, ladies, it's great to see you again. Last time we were all together was at the Trump rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and what a time it was. Hopefully we can all get back together soon. But despite the best efforts of the fake news, mainstream media narrative, the MAGA rally in Oklahoma was absolutely incredible. I think we can all agree with that. Thousands of patriots attended in person and over 10.1 million tuned in online. Let me say that again. 10.1 million tuned in online. Forget about even the television stations that carried the rally. Let's take a look back at some of the best moments of the rally. Of course, one of the most unforgettable moments was President Trump when he talked about how the mainstream media and their ridiculous coverage of his West Point ramp walk down. I mean, I couldn't stop laughing at this. I mean, he really took us for like a 10-minute ride on the West Point train there. It was so funny to hear. Katrina, I want to play the clip and I'm going to get your reaction. Watch this.
So then my wife said, well, it wasn't only the ramp. Did you have water? I said, yeah. I was speaking for a long time. I didn't want to drink it, but I wanted to wet my lips a little bit. You know, you're working hard up there with the sun pouring down on you. I love this location. The sun's like this. This way they save on lighting, right? That's why they did it probably. So what happens is I said, what does it have to do with water? They said, you couldn't lift your hand up to your mouth with water. I said, I just saluted 600 times like this. And this was before I saluted. So what's the problem? She said, well, I know what you did. You had on a very good red tie that's sort of expensive. It's silk because they look better. They have a better sheen to them. And I don't want to get water on the tie. And I don't want to drink much. So I lifted up the water. I see we have a little glass of water. Where the hell did this water come from? Right? Where did it come from? And I look down on my tie, because I've done it. I've taken water, and it spills down into your tie. It doesn't look good for a long time. And frankly, the tie is never the same. So I put it up to my lip, and then I say, because I don't want it to, just in case. And they gave me another disease. They gave me another disease.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, there he was. We got to see it again. And he just threw the glass down and he showed the mainstream media he can drink out of a glass, that he can walk down a ramp. I mean, the irony here, Katrina, I think, is that the only person who's, I guess their health we should be questioning really is Joe Biden's. But what does it say about the mainstream media and their complete Trump derangement syndrome?
You know, they make fun of the president because it makes themselves feel better about themselves. You know, the president can do more than one thing at a time. They can't. And this is what's happening. You know, the media has to cover nonsense like this. They have to sensationalize it. I mean, even walking. Remember when that happened in 2016 when Hillary Clinton literally fell down?
Oh,
they
yeah.
were aghast. They were aghast because why would anyone insinuate anything when she literally passed out? But there's that double standard again that we always see. And it doesn't matter if it's the number of scoops of ice cream. It doesn't matter if it's Diet Coke or, taco bowls, you name it. If they didn't do it, they would actually have to cover the news, Laura. But if they did that, they would have to talk about the violent protests, the Portland shooting that happened, by the way, inside Chaz or CHOP or whatever it's called now. The police couldn't even get to the victims. And we have this nonsense that really started in Minneapolis, trying to disband the police. And guess what? Just this weekend, a teenager was shot simply sitting in the car. This is the chaos, the news that they would actually have to cover if they weren't so stuck on trying to turn everyone against our president.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually shocked because last week I actually got asked in a television interview, a national television interview, is the president okay? Is there anything you want to tell us about his health? Because of that. Could you even imagine? I was like, wait, that's a real question happening. Okay.
Hey, Laura, did they ask you how Joe Biden was doing? Are they saying, is there anything wrong with Joe Biden?
Isn't that interesting? They did not. But I think everyone knows there's something wrong with Joe Biden. So maybe it's just a given now. Maybe we're just accepting that and they're not even going to talk about it. I don't think that would shock anybody. All right, let's play the next clip because there's so much more to get to.
I stand before you today to declare the silent majority is stronger than ever before. 5 months from now, we're going to defeat Sleepy Joe Biden. Boy, does he get a pass from these people, huh? We're going to stop the radical left. We're going to build a future of safety and opportunity for Americans of every race, color, religion, and creed.
All right, Kimberly, how ready and prepared is President Trump to defeat Joe Biden and those radical Democrats come November 3rd?
Well, let's be honest. President Trump is a winner. That's all he knows how to do his entire life is win. And we saw with the energy, the enthusiasm, it was electric in that arena. It was absolutely unbelievable. People were so over the top enthused because guess what? They want to get back to winning. They want to get the economy restarted. They want the jobs back. This is a president who created 7.3 million American jobs with his America First agenda. He knows how to get the businesses up and running and add jobs, whether it's through manufacturing, infrastructure, and how about making goods in America? How about worrying about American workers, American jobs? Because he's the only one that has put a stop to exporting America. Okay, that's what everybody else was doing. Let China make it. No more. Under President Trump, he's saying we're going to make it here, we're going to build it here, and we're going to create jobs here. So he's totally ready. Biden is so confused. He still doesn't understand what office he's running for or who the wife is, who the sister is. I don't know. I just want to like stroke his little head and say, go back, take a nap, Joe. Take a nap. We'll wake you up on November 4th. Leave this to the adults and to the winners and to the commander in chief. Okay.
Well, you know what else I loved too was I loved how President Trump talked about the fact that Joe Biden would be taking his marching orders from AOC and the rest of the socialist squad because nobody actually thinks that Joe Biden would be able to run this country.
That's
Watch
right.
the president talking about this.
Biden is fully controlled by the fringe of his party. He is their pawn. He doesn't even know where the hell he is, let's face it. He installed socialists, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, to be in charge of his environmental policy and his energy. You can forget petroleum. How does Oklahoma feel about being petroleum free? Not good, right? Our country will have no energy. Our country will have nothing. Oklahoma, Texas, North Dakota, and many others will all be out of business. I don't think that's going to work out too well, but she's actually in charge of environmental policy.
Mercedes, I want you to talk a little bit about this, about the fact that Joe Biden is truly being controlled by the radical left, and just how devastating would this Green New Deal be if implemented in the United States?
Well, first of all, can you just imagine AOC becoming like our EPA administrator or Environmental Protection Agency administrator? That would be a real bad thing for America, because God only knows she would probably take away our cars. So it's
the cows are definitely done. So
the cows are done.
Cows
The
better
cows
start
are
getting
done.
out of here.
The cars are done. We might not be able to get on a plane. It's going to get real complicated real fast. But, you know, I've got to tell you, I think that we have to really understand the huge progress that the president has made to make America energy independent. Just think about that.
Yeah.
We are no longer dependent on the Middle East for our energy, and especially for our energy industry. We've been able to ensure that we've become one of the largest producers of natural gas. We are about creating energy jobs in America, which of course would benefit so many of our states across the country. So think about it. Not only are we energy dependent, but that also leads to a strong and prosperous economy for our workers. Contrast that with the Joe Biden, who's got AOC as his climate advisor. People,
what a
that's
joke.
Dangerous for America, because you're talking about the fact of starting to add additional regulations, and president had taken away these job-killing regulations, meaning creating additional burdens for our companies, which, as we know, would lead to job loss, to increases in cost of electricity, which we know greatly impacts minority communities, those of middle class and lower class communities, that low income communities that really would see these negative effects of having to pay more out of pocket for electricity. So it's a danger. It's an absolute danger to America's long prosperity and economic plans that we have for the future.
You know, it feels to me like Joe Biden knew that to appease this radical base now of the Democrat Party, he had to keep leaning left and left and left. And after you start leaning left long enough, you end up just falling over. And that's what's happened. He's down. He's in the basement. He fell over. He has no control over anything. God forbid if he got control of this country, we know he wouldn't have control over anything. He would be a shell president, just a puppet for AOC, for the radical squad. If you think the kind of stuff that he's talking about now is extreme, wait till he got in there. He isn't even telling us the half of it. This is just the tip of the iceberg here. If Joe Biden and this radical socialist Democrat Party got control of our country, it's absolutely terrifying. Ladies, thank you so much. As always, we're going to take one quick break. Folks at home, please be sure to like and share this broadcast with your friends. Stay with us. We'll be right back with more of The Right View.
Antifa is destroying our communities, rioting, looting. Yet Joe Biden kneels down and his staff sends money for bail. And Biden fails to stand up to the radical leftists fighting to defund and abolish the police. With Biden kneeling to the left, we'd have chaos in the streets. President Trump is standing up for us, keeping our communities safe, protecting minority-owned businesses, and always standing for our flag.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
Hey, Lara Trump here. The fake news media has spent years trying to stop President Trump with their lies and their witch hunts. But still, our movement is stronger than ever. We can't let the fake news media drown out our positive message about all of our incredible accomplishments. Make sure you're getting your news directly from the source by subscribing to the official Donald J. Trump podcast today. Subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, or Google Play.
All right, welcome back to The Right View. And one thing Republicans and Democrats can agree on is their disgust for John Bolton. That's what I call bipartisanship, right? So, yeah, the disgruntled, fired ex-staffer is currently on a media tour undermining American national security for personal profit. This is an individual who couldn't even get confirmed in a Republican Senate because he was so disliked. This is an individual who was irrelevant and forgotten, but worked his way into President Trump's White House under false pretenses. Not only did he undermine the president's foreign policy while at the White House, he's now divulging secret conversations and classified material to the public. It is shameful. Now, Mercy, you work directly with John Bolton in the White House. Can you describe the type of person he is, and are you surprised by any of this?
Actually, I'm very disappointed in John Bolton because he was one that I thought had great potential in helping to shape the foreign policy for the president. But what happened is that he quickly would get almost so frustrated and furious that he couldn't implement John Bolton's policies. And let me explain something. When you're in the White House, your job as an advisor is to provide counsel to the president. And it is up to the president of the United States to make the final decisions on these very critical foreign policy areas. And what we found is that while you have a Secretary Pompeo, for instance, or several other advisors who would come and make their case to the president, it was John Bolton would just he was like a little child, like having a tantrum when he didn't get his way. And so, for me, just watching him decide to share conversations from his own point of view, which again conflicts with like Mick Mulvaney's point of view when he was in the room, or Secretary Pompeo, just shows that John Bolton is all about the money and not about the country. And you even have South Korea's national security advisor coming out and saying that John Bolton's book is dangerous because he portrayed this conversation that happened between those in South Korea, the advisors in South Korea, obviously the North Koreans, and the United States, and he basically said that John Bolton didn't have it right. So this is harmful. It is a disgrace, and really, it's, for me personally, I just think that John Bolton, he's never going to get a job again. Not in Washington, not in Alaska.
Right, exactly.
Not in Russia. Okay.
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, here's the problem. He went in there and he was like, oh, wait a second. Why doesn't my business card say President of the United States? He thought he was going to be a shot caller. He thought Kinko's messed up his order. But no, sorry. The people elected President Trump. He makes the calls. He makes the shots. You do what he says. Like, that's the problem right there. All right, Laura. So what does it say about John Bolton that he is willing literally to sell out his country just to get books and for personal profit? And what was your reaction to Bolton's interview on ABC this past Sunday?
Well, I guess it's just anything to make a quick buck. And this is not the first time, nor will it be the last time, that we've seen people try to profit off this president. It's been happening since day one, since Donald Trump came down the golden escalator. Everybody's trying to jump on the bandwagon, get what they could, get their little bit, and then go out and sell a book. This is ridiculous. This is actually scary for the future of this country. What about executive privilege? How can we ever trust that any president won't have this same situation now that John Bolton has done this? This guy wouldn't go and testify during the impeachment trials because he wanted to wait and save every bit of information for his book so he can make more money. From what I understand from everybody in the White House, apparently this guy was like going in his office. Nobody really knew what he was doing for hours on end. Apparently he was taking all of the notes that he was taking and transcribing it for a book. It is despicable and it's disgusting. And I think the American people are tired of this. Listen, we have to hold the folks that you know are there in a national security advisor role or whatever it might be. Whenever you have that position, there's certain responsibility that comes with it, and never should you be allowed to sell out your country like this. I think it's absolutely disgraceful.
I totally agree. And Laura, you bring up a great point about the subpoena stuff, because guess what? I think if he had to go testify now under oath, it wouldn't be the same as the content in the book. Get it? He's avoiding that so he can write whatever the heck he wants in a book that's untrue, but he won't go and swear to tell the truth under oath. It'll be totally different, and then he'd be held responsible and guilty of perjuring himself. So we got his number, figured out. Katrina, so I want to talk to you about the president and where would the United States be? Think about this. If President Trump didn't fire John Bolton and instead took his advice on foreign policy, bad advice, do you think he should be prosecuted as well? I'm curious your thoughts.
First of all, this whole thing is gross. It's absolutely gross. And to Laura's point, there should be actions taken against people who quote leak this type of information, particularly for personal gain. And let's not, forget here, we are in an election year. This is also election interference. Think about this. Why not wait and States be, Kimberly? Probably in several more wars that we don't need to be in. John Bolton is just pissed off because he didn't get his war with Iran that he's wanted his entire career. And thank God that President Trump puts our children who serve in the military over John Bolton's expectations and his warmongering. And what's really unfortunate about all of this is you have a president who truly cares about our country and the people in it, who gives people like John Bolton an opportunity of a lifetime, and they turn around and they use it against him as if somehow he was the bad guy, and they just mess it all up, and it's all for their own personal and political gain. I do think he should absolutely be prosecuted. If they could find any way, these people need to be held accountable, particularly when it comes to matters of national security.
You're absolutely right. And the president isn't afraid that people disagree with him. He wants to hear all different opinions. What he has a problem with is that people that try to profit off of their position, especially as Laura, as you mentioned, someone in a position of trust and importance as it relates to national security. That is outrageous and it's unacceptable. And I can't wait for him to be prosecuted. All right, ladies, thank you, everybody. We're going to be right back after this short commercial break with more of your favorite, The Right View. As we have already seen, his America First agenda has lifted all Americans up and have empowered them with true economic emancipation that has once again made the American dream possible. That's why I want you to text EMPOWER to 88022 right now if you want to keep America great and deliver 4 more years for President Donald J. Trump.
We know you want to give Donald Trump 4 more years to fight for you in Washington, but he isn't just up against Joe Biden. He's up against the Democrat fundraising machine, and he needs all the help he can get. Don't just assume because his opponent hasn't completed a single sentence that this campaign is over. Crazy things happen, like this woman becoming Speaker of the House. Support the president today by texting Trump to 88022. Donald Trump is counting on every single one of his supporters to text Trump to 88022 now.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
Welcome back to The Right View. I'm Katrina Pierson, and last week, our campaign released a new ad, scathing ad, talking about Joe Biden's unfitness for office. So let's play this clip and get your reaction.
Joe Biden is slipping.
Rapidly rising
Now at the age of 77 years old and running for president for the 3rd time, Biden is clearly diminished.
All men and women created by go, you know the thing. Sometimes I wake up and I think it's 1920.
Joe Biden does not have the strength, stamina, and mental fortitude required to lead this country.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
Okay, wow, Laura. how is it possible that Joe Biden would be capable of making tough decisions as president of the United States? I mean, these are really tough, life-changing decisions if he can't even string two sentences together.
Well, he can't string two sentences together. He can't even get his mask off of his ear hanging down there. I mean, this is a guy, and listen, I know we all laugh about it and we kind of make fun of it, but if you just take a step back for a second, think about the way that China, Russia, North Korea, Iran, all of our adversaries around the world are salivating, thinking that this guy is going to be the possible president of the United States. It is terrifying to think about. I mean, I don't even want to know what would happen to the United States of America in the first year, let alone if this guy could actually make it through a full term in office. He and his campaign have said, no way, we do not want to do a fourth debate with Donald Trump. Let me tell you why. Because they know the second that that guy steps on stage with Donald Trump, it is over. We are going to see such a stark contrast between a leader, somebody that has their full mental capacity with Donald Trump, someone that has been leading this country every single day for the past 3.5 years. Joe Biden has been in politics for 44 years and has nothing but bad decisions to show for it. He is clearly diminished when it comes to his mental situation. I think most people out there can appreciate that. In fact, a recent poll said that 55% of likely voters believe that he is in the early stages of dementia.
Yeah.
So it is absolutely horrifying to think about this guy becoming our president. It's all the more reason that on November 3rd, we got to get 4 more years of Donald Trump.
Totally.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and it's kind of scary to see how the media continues to protect him and the Democrats continue to push him for this role, which means there's going to be somebody else behind the curtain. And we can't forget, Laura, they don't want him on stage. And that's very clear because he has not held a press conference in how many days? 80. It has been 80 days since Joe Biden has spoken publicly.
Little more than 80. He's just, it's
82, I think.
82 or
82. See,
but who's counting, Joe?
Obvious. 80 is way too many days if you're running for president of the United States.
Exactly.
To not make any public statements. So, but his campaign advisors, clearly, they know this and they don't like being asked about it. So let's play this clip of Joe Biden's senior advisor, Simone Sanders, on Fox News Sunday.
All right, so here's a question I'm going to ask you. Joe Biden has, you talk about him being on the campaign trail, but I think most people have been struck that he stayed in his Delaware home mostly, and in large part since March. He's held a few socially distanced events, but by the large part, he has not been on the campaign trail, and he could have held certainly more socially distanced events, and perhaps more important, he has not held a news conference, either in person or online, for 80 days, almost 3 months. Why not?
Well, Chris, to be clear, Vice President Biden does interviews, takes questions from the press regularly. And yes, in March, we have adjusted to this new normal like most people in America. We have been campaigning virtually, but just because we are campaigning virtually does not mean we are not meeting actual voters across the country. Vice President Biden has campaigned in Michigan and Florida. Dr. Biden has campaigned in Colorado and Texas. So the reality is what we have been doing is following CDC guidelines, Chris. What we have been doing is
But why hasn't he held a news conference for 80? But why hasn't he held a news conference for 80 days?
Chris, as many of y'all in the national press and in the Beltway press are well aware, we take pride in prioritizing local media. And so the vice president is doing local media interviews. He's doing national media interviews, and he is taking questions from reporters.
Okay, Mercedes. So look, does the Biden campaign really expect to be able to coddle the candidate all the way to the presidency? Because the media clearly is giving him a pass. I'm glad Chris asked the question, but I don't think that his campaign is interested in having a news conference anytime soon. What do you think?
Yeah, I felt like Simone was like tap dancing around the answer because she couldn't give a great answer on it. It's very clear that the campaign has made a strategic decision to keep him in the basement under wraps, as even former Governor of Virginia, Terry McAuliffe, said it's probably better for Joe Biden to stay in the basement. Because what we have seen, even in these local interviews, which is kind of interesting, the staffers come in and pretty much interrupt the interview at the end. I mean, it's like Joe Biden needs to take a nap at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And one of my favorite tweets was Jason Miller put out recently. He said, well, you know, it's not about does Joe Biden have the ability to pick up the phone at 2 o'clock in the morning and answer the phone? It's about whether he has the ability to answer the phone at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh my God.
You know, that's the reality I'm dealing with. And I got to tell you, it's why these Democrats are nervous. It's why they're trying to put a lot of the focus and attention on the vice presidential pick, because everybody knows that it is really going to be the vice president who is going to be in charge of the White House if Joe Biden were ever to win, which he's not going to, people. But remember, you got to go out and vote. So, I mean, that's, I think, where we're at this point.
You know, Mercedes, you know, voting is extremely important, particularly now. I mean, you have to get your friends and your neighbors out there to vote, because the numbers are what's really going to show. Just like when no one expected in 2016 the numbers to turn out for President Trump, and they did. And we need to maintain that momentum to send a message to the left that there is a silent majority out there, and we see Joe Biden's vision for America unfolding right before our eyes, and we have to fundamentally reject that. And we're seeing it all across the country. The radical left protesters are trying to erase every aspect of American history, and just last week, violent mobs tore down statues of Thomas Jefferson, one of my personal favorites, George Washington, and Christopher Columbus, for crying out loud. And President Trump described the lunacy like this.
The left-wing anarchists tore down a statue of Thomas Jefferson. Now we're getting into the real stuff. They decapitated a statue of Christopher Columbus, except in New York when the Italians surrounded it. They didn't have too much of a chance. Those Italians, I love the Italians. They heard they were going to rip down their beautiful Christopher Columbus, and all of a sudden they circled that thing. They didn't do too well in hurting Christopher, did they? Thank you to our Italian population. We're very proud of you, right? 2 days ago, leftist radicals in Portland, Oregon, ripped down a statue of George Washington and wrapped it in an American flag and set the American flag on fire. Democrat, all Democrat. Everything I tell you is Democrat. And you know, we ought to do something, Mr. Senators. We have two great senators. We ought to come up with legislation that if you burn the American flag, you go to jail for 1 year. 1 year.
So, Kimberly, why is Joe Biden insistent on bowing to the radical left and refusing to denounce this anarchy?
Well, I don't think Joe Biden actually knows what he's doing or saying. I think we've documented that pretty well. But, you know, he wakes up, he reads a teleprompter, and then takes a mid-morning nap, eats, some snacks, and he takes a sip from his sippy cup. But sadly, like, you know, the rest of the country, the world is essentially on fire, and this guy has no clue what's going on. The Democrat Party also has no respect for the flag. He's completely been silent while all the unrest is going on. He's exhibited no leadership skills, no interest whatsoever in actually being part of a solution. And the Democrats, the radical left, and the liberals, the anarchists are all grouped together in one fan club against the country. Let's be honest. And instead of standing up for America, instead of standing up for innocent citizens across the country, or for business entrepreneurs trying to live their American dream, getting their business burned to the ground, they're all just falling to their knees. That's all they're doing. They are standing by and complicit while lives are destroyed. This is the whole thing that's been going on this whole time, whether it's Nancy Pelosi, who also bent her knee to AOC, and the squad. Okay, so that's who's really going to be, wagging the tail here of Joe Biden. Okay, that's what he's going to allow if he's allowed to become president, unless people wake up and say absolutely not. And Joe Biden has bent his knee to the demands of Antifa and the BLM activists, and we cannot allow this on our watch. These people are not leaders. Joe Biden is not a leader. He never has been. He never will be. All he is just a panderer in chief, desperate for votes for a party that's failed and out of ideas. Every word, every move is just a calculated political decision aimed at trying to get votes. to steal votes when they have no intention of doing anything to help the people. They've abandoned their convictions. They've abandoned this country, and all they care about is seizing power. It's a total power grab. That's all this is. And that's the difference between the Democrats and the difference between President Trump and the people that support him. As you know, Laura, your father-in-law didn't need this job. He didn't need it.
Right.
None of you needed to put up with this. But you said, you know what? I'm not going to sit by on the sidelines and watch a country burn and watch lives destroy and the American economy go down the tubes. We're standing up. So is the movement. We saw everybody there trying to bust through to get in for that rally to be able to support the president and all the people that tuned in to watch it. That is what's going on in this country. The silent majority is going to come out and vote on November 3rd. We need Trump, and God bless him.
You know, Kimberly, I think you hit the nail on the head. This election is about leadership. We have leadership in President Trump, and then we have a bunch of followers who are just scrambling for power on the left. And, you know, I think most Americans will reject Joe Biden and let him have his snack, which is most likely corn pop. So with that, stay right there. We have one more break and we'll be right back.
Joe Biden is slipping.
Rapidly rising
Now at the age of 77 years old and running for president for the third time, Biden is clearly diminished.
All men and women created by you know the thing.
Sometimes I wake up and I think it's 1920.
Joe Biden does not have the strength, stamina, and mental fortitude required to lead this country.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black. If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black, and you ain't black, and you ain't black.
Welcome back to The Right View. I'm Mercedes Schlapp, and thank you all for watching. This has been such a great show, but I got to tell you, ladies, I had so much fun in Tulsa, Oklahoma. That rally was spectacular, and it was great that the president was back on the road. In fact, we've learned that not only did we get 11 million views on our digital platforms, it was Fox News' biggest night in television. So they got over like 7 million views. It was absolutely amazing. And of course, that's because the one man that knows how to build a crowd is President Donald J. Trump. But before we go, I just want to say to all of you watching that we need you to get involved. We need you to be part of this movement. You don't just want to sit there and watch the shows. You want to be active. And the way to do this is to download our app, to make sure that you know which events are coming to your area, or you can text Trump at 88022. Or another way you can get involved is going to armyfortrump.com for volunteer opportunities. Let me tell you something. We want you to come help us save America and rebuild our economy. And the only way we're going to do that is if we re-elect President Donald J. Trump. With that, ladies, this is always my favorite part. Let's talk about your final thoughts. Lara, I'll start with you.
Well, first, I just want to go back for a moment to this idea of getting rid of our history, of tearing down statues, of defacing monuments. You cannot erase the history of this country and think that you won't make the same mistakes again. This is not a perfect country. We don't have a perfect history, but we are getting closer to perfection every single day. We're working on it. It's a work in progress. And it's shocking for me to see these statues being torn down left and right. Most of these people who tear down the statues have no idea who the individual is that is actually, you know, of the bronze statue or whatever it is. They don't even know, they don't care. A lot of these people were abolitionists. They're defacing the Lincoln Memorial. Like, are you guys kidding me? When you're standing out there and doing these sort of things, you don't realize that you can't erase the history of this country. It doesn't work. The history is there for a reason. So I'm just sort of disgusted by that. I want to say that it was obviously Father's Day on Sunday, so I want to wish all the dads out there a happy belated Father's Day. I hope you all had a great one. My husband Eric had a wonderful one, and he actually posted a really sweet photo for Father's Day. I don't know if you can see this. It's Joe Biden wishing everyone a happy Mother's Day.
Aww.
Isn't that sweet?
Bless his heart.
Joe? Bless his heart.
That's hilarious. I'm convinced that Joe Biden is going to confuse Thanksgiving and Christmas. I mean, come on, let's be real. But I also want to wish my sweet husband, Matt Schlapp, a happy Father's Day. We had a wonderful day together. He, has to not only deal with me, but with his 5 beautiful daughters. And my dad, who has been a huge inspiration in my life. And he's taught me the importance of fighting for America and defending our freedoms. So happy Father's Day to these 2 special men in my life. With that, Kimberly, what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, it was wonderful getting back on the campaign trail with all the ladies this past weekend, doing the Right View live for an audience there was fantastic. And as I said during my remarks, when I look out into those crowds, it's hard not to see 4 more years of President Trump. I really was so optimistic. I felt the energy, the enthusiasm. But as we also saw from the event, there are people who will do anything they can to stop us. There's radicals and lowlifes, quite frankly, that want to stop people from exercising their vote, their freedom of expression, their First Amendment, and showing up actually peacefully to assemble to be able to listen to their president. But the power of this movement is bigger. It is stronger than anyone in the media can comprehend. They don't get it, but we do. We see it because we get out there. We're out there talking to the folks, okay? The forgotten men and women that Trump will never forget, that he brought into the tent to be participatory in American democracy and actually exercise our vote and take this whole movement across the country. But I think what some people miss is how much love, how much patriotism, how much optimism there is at these events. They are powerful and they are positive, and that is my favorite part. And that's what inspires me to do more and get involved and just spread the message. We got to be fearless. And, that rally was at the end of a long week, a trip for me where I was pretty tired, but I tell you, I got fired up just being able to be there and with all of you ladies and see all the people and really appreciate just the power and the significance of what is happening right now in American political history. And it is energizing. I encourage everyone who has not attended a rally, take the opportunity to join us here when they come again. And I promise it's unlike anything that you have ever attended. These ladies can attest to it as well, and you will not regret it. Let me tell you something. And I was working hard, raising money all last week. People are enthusiastic and they want to donate. They want to give their hard-earned American dollars to President Trump to make sure that he gets 4 more years.
Yes, Kimberly, you're absolutely right. There's such huge enthusiasm for this president. And let me tell you something, that silent majority will come out and vote on November 3rd. So Katrina, let me turn to you. What are your final thoughts?
Okay, guys, so we're talking about the rally that was in Tulsa, which was phenomenal. And we actually took this show on tour, and it was so much fun being with you ladies and having the guests come in and out with the crowd behind us, and it was just so energetic. And I missed all of the energy that we didn't get to experience since February at the rallies. And what was so special for me at this particular rally is that we had the Black Voices for Trump advisory board come in. The crowd was so diverse, and you could just see there were so many other supporters coming out for President Trump. And I believe it's because people are saying, no more, you can't bully me, you can't define me by my skin color. And even when I was leaving Tulsa at the airport, I had, Black people with dreads coming up to me in their Trump t-shirts saying, oh, let's fist bump. And it was just so amazing to see that you had, Black Trump supporters actually flying into Tulsa just to be a part of this rally, to show their support for President Trump and wanting to fight and reelect him. And it was just so amazing and so energetic. And final last thing, it was Father's Day. And if you voted on my Insta story about which identical twin was my father, if you guessed the one who is on the left, you were correct.
Oh,
So
that was my guess.
again, everyone.
That was my guess, Katrina. I win.
Look
What
at
do
this.
I get?
Laura Trump,
And
always
you
winning.
guessed right. So you guessed my dad. It was a great Father's Day little post. And it's always very cute when you have identical twins growing up because your uncle tries to trick you. So I always remind them of that.
That's great, Katrina. Well, happy Father's Day to your dad. I just want to say to all you watching, thank you for being part of the Right View family. We really enjoy being together, talking about the issues that matter, and most importantly, talking about how Joe Biden is unfit to be president. He should just stay in the basement, take his naps. I mean, he can't ever compete with the numbers that we have, the support that we have, but we've got an important job to do come November 3rd. So remember to get involved. With that, thank you all for joining. Thanks for watching. God bless you. God bless America. And God bless President Donald J. Trump.